Hey everyone, welcome back to the Screen Review. Today, we're diving into the 2023 romantic comedy Anyone But You, directed by Will Gluck. Let's explore what makes this film tick, and whether it's worth your time. The story centers on B, a law student played by Sydney Sweeney, and Ben, a Goldman Sachs employee portrayed by Glenn Powell. Their chance encounter at a coffee shop leads to an unforgettable day together. However, a misunderstanding the next morning sours their budding romance. Fast forward 6 months, and fate reunites them at a destination wedding in Sydney. Despite their frosty history, they agree to fake a relationship to navigate the social pressures surrounding the event. The film's strengths lies in its charismatic leads. Sweeney and Powell deliver performances that are both engaging and relatable, capturing the complexities of modern relationships. Director Will Gluck, known for Easy A, infuses the film with sharp wit and contemporary humor. The chemistry between the leads is palpable, reminiscent of classic rom-com dynamics. Visually, the film is a treat. The Australian setting provides a stunning backdrop, adding to the film's allure. The cinematography captures both the romance and the comedy, enhancing the overall experience. From beach parties to iconic landmarks, the film makes the most of its location, immersing viewers in the vibrant atmosphere of Sydney. So, should you watch Anyone But You? If you're a fan of romantic comedies with charming leads and picturesque settings, it's worth a watch. While it may not revolutionize the genre, it offers a delightful escape with its humor and heart. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more movie reviews. Have you seen Anyone But You? Share your thoughts below. Alright, let's talk about Anyone But You, the latest rom-com directed by Will Gluck. This movie brings us back to the classic enemies to lovers trope, but with a fresh, modern twist. So, what's the setup? Who are the characters? And what kind of chaos do they get into? Let's break it down. We start with B, played by Sydney Sweeney. She's smart, independent, and has her guard up when it comes to romance. She's studying law and seems to have her life together. But like most rom-com protagonists, there's a little more to her than meets the eye. Then we have Ben, played by Glenn Powell. He's charming, confident, and just the right amount of cocky. He works in finance, loves to push people's buttons, and is basically the kind of guy you'd expect to be a rom-com leading man. The two of them meet in the most serendipitous way, at a coffee shop. Their first meeting? Absolutely electric. Sparks fly, there's witty banter, and for a brief moment, it seems like this could be the start of something great. They end up spending the whole day together, and it's one of those whirlwind, too-good-to-be-true rom-com moments where everything just clicks. But of course, this wouldn't be a rom-com without some kind of misunderstanding. The next morning, something happens, something that completely ruins their perfect day and leaves them both convinced that the other is not the one. The details? Well, no spoilers yet. But let's just say it's enough for them to part ways thinking they never want to see each other again. Fast forward 6 months, and surprise, surprise, fate isn't done with these two. B is invited to a stunning destination wedding in Australia, and guess who else happens to be on the guest list? That's right, Ben. Turns out, their lives are more intertwined than they thought, and now they're stuck together at a gorgeous, sun-soaked wedding, forced to interact whether they like it or not. At first, things are tense. They bicker, they exchange side-eyes, and they make it clear they want nothing to do with each other. But when external pressures start to mount, think nosy relatives, exes, and the usual wedding drama, B and Ben make a pact. They decide to fake being a couple to get through the event smoothly. And that's where the real fun begins. From staged romantic gestures to awkwardly navigating wedding traditions, B and Ben find themselves in some truly hilarious situations. But as they play pretend, something starts to shift. The chemistry that was there on day one, it never really went away. So, what happens next? Do they keep up the act? Do they finally admit their feelings? And does this wedding end in disaster or happily ever after? Well, you'll have to watch to find out. Anyone But You gives us everything we love in a rom-com. Gorgeous locations, witty dialogue, and of course 2 characters who can't stand each other. Until they can't stand being apart. Now let's talk about Anyone But You, specifically the performances. Because let's be honest, a rom-com lives or dies by its leads. Do Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell have what it takes to sell this enemies to lovers romance? Let's break it down. Starting with Sydney Sweeney, this is a different kind of role for her. We're used to seeing her in more intense dramatic performances, Euphoria, White Lotus, but here she gets to show off her comedic timing. And honestly, she nails it. She plays Bea as sharp, guarded, and a little neurotic, but with just enough vulnerability that you root for her. Plus, she's got a great way of delivering those deadpan, sarcastic one-liners. Whether she's trying to avoid Ben at all costs or struggling to keep up the fake relationship act, Sweeney brings a mix of charm and chaos that makes Bea feel real. You can tell she's having fun in this role, and it makes watching her even more enjoyable. And then there's Glenn Powell. If you've seen Top Gun, Maverick, or Set It Up, you know this guy oozes confidence and charisma. As Ben, he's got that cocky, too cool for this attitude, but Powell adds just enough warmth to keep him from being insufferable. His comedic timing is spot on. He's got this effortless way of delivering quips that make the dialogue pop. But it's not just the comedy. Powell also brings depth to Ben. Beneath the bravado, he's dealing with his own issues, and as the movie goes on, you start to see those layers peel back. He's more than just the charming guy. He's genuinely funny, a little bit of a mess, and, let's be real, extremely likable. Of course, the real magic of this movie comes down to Sweeney and Powell together. Their chemistry is electric. You believe that these two had an amazing first day together, that they hate each other after they're falling out, and that, despite everything, they can't help but gravitate back toward one another. Every scene between them crackles with tension, whether they're fighting, flirting, or faking their romance for everyone else. They play off each other perfectly. Sweeney's eye rolls versus Powell's smug grin, the way their arguments feel almost too natural. It all works. And when the movie finally leans into the romance, their chemistry makes those moments feel earned. Outside of the leads, the supporting cast does a solid job too. The wedding setting brings in a fun mix of quirky side characters, and while they don't steal the show, they help build the world around Bea and Ben. But at the end of the day, this movie is all about Sweeney and Powell. Their performances take a familiar rom-com formula and make it feel fresh, fun, and totally worth watching. Let's talk about the cinematography in Anyone But You. Now, for a rom-com, you're not exactly expecting groundbreaking visuals, and honestly, that's pretty much what you get here. It's fine, it does the job, but it doesn't do anything particularly new or unique to stand out. The film definitely makes use of its setting. Australia is a gorgeous backdrop, and the cinematography takes advantage of that. The bright beaches, city skylines, and lush wedding venue all look great on screen. The colors are warm, the lighting is soft, and it gives the movie that glossy, feel-good rom-com look. Visually, everything is clean and polished. The use of natural light makes the romantic moments feel warm and intimate, while the more comedic scenes are shot in a way that keeps the energy light and playful. There's nothing distracting or off-putting, it's all just solid. But that's also the thing, it's just solid. The framing, the camera movements, the shot choices, none of it is particularly inventive. It sticks to the standard rom-com playbook, close-ups for emotional beats, wider shots for comedic timing, and the occasional sweeping drone shot to remind you they're in a beautiful location. If you've seen any modern romantic comedy, you've seen this cinematography before. There's nothing bad about it, but there's also nothing memorable. It's functional, it's safe, and it never really takes any risks. At the end of the day, the cinematography in Anyone But You does exactly what it needs to. It makes everything look pretty and keeps the focus on the actors. It's not a visually groundbreaking film, but for a rom-com that's usually not the point. It serves the story, gives us nice scenery to look at, and stays out of the way. And honestly, that's fine. Let's talk about the pacing of Anyone But You. A good rom-com needs to keep things moving, balancing comedy, romance, and character development without dragging. So, does this one nail the timing? Well, mostly. The first act starts strong. The meet-cute between Bea and Ben is fun, fast-paced, and full of chemistry. Their initial interactions have great energy, and the film wastes no time setting up their dynamic. You're hooked early, and it feels like things are off to a great start. Then we jump forward 6 months, and this is where the pacing hits a bit of a snag. Once Bea and Ben reunite at the wedding, the movie slows down to establish all the side characters and subplots. While some of it is necessary, there are moments where it feels like it's stalling before getting to the good stuff. aka the fake dating and real chemistry. The middle section is where the film lingers the longest. There are plenty of funny moments, but some scenes feel like they could have been tightened up. A few running jokes last longer than they need to, and some of the romantic tension builds at a slightly uneven pace. You're waiting for that big turning point where Bea and Ben start realizing their feelings, and it takes just a little longer than it should to get there. Once the movie hits its emotional climax, the pacing picks up again. The last act moves quickly, maybe too quickly. After spending so much time in the middle stretch, the resolution feels a bit rushed. Things wrap up neatly, but you can't help but feel like some of the earlier scenes could have been trimmed to give the finale more breathing room. Overall, the pacing of Anyone But You is mostly solid. It starts strong, dips a little in the middle, and then speeds through the ending. It never drags too much, but a little more balance in the second and third acts would have made for a smoother experience. Still, for a rom-com, it does what it needs to. Keeps you engaged, delivers the laughs, and gets you to that satisfying conclusion. Let's talk about the atmosphere and tone of Anyone But You. If you've seen a modern rom-com, you pretty much know what you're getting here. Light, playful, and romantic. The film never strays from that familiar feel-good formula, and while that makes for an easy, enjoyable watch, it also means it doesn't do anything unique or unexpected. The tone is exactly what you'd expect. It's bright, it's breezy, and it's meant to make you smile. The comedy is lighthearted, the drama is never too heavy, and even when things get emotional, the movie doesn't dwell on it for too long. Everything is designed to be fun and easy to watch. The dialogue, the soundtrack, the visuals, it all works together to create that classic rom-com energy. There's a mix of snappy, sarcastic humor and more sincere romantic moments, but nothing ever feels too intense. Even when Bea and Ben are at odds, you know they're going to end up together, so the stakes never feel too high. The atmosphere leans heavily into the escapist fantasy of a rom-com. The sun-drenched Australian setting, the wedding backdrop, the glamorous parties, it all creates this dreamy, idealized world where everything looks just a little too perfect. It's exactly what you'd expect from a romantic comedy, and while that's not a bad thing, it also means the film doesn't take any risks with its tone. So, does Anyone But You set itself apart in terms of atmosphere and tone? Not really. It plays things safe, sticking to the tried-and-true rom-com formula. But for what it is, a light, feel-good romantic comedy, it delivers exactly what you'd expect. Nothing more, nothing less. Let's talk about the rewatchability of Anyone But You. Some movies get better with multiple viewings, revealing new layers, hidden details, or deeper meaning. This is not one of those movies. But that doesn't mean it isn't rewatchable. It just depends on what you're looking for. If you're hoping to pull something new from a second or third watch, you probably won't. The story is straightforward. The jokes hit the same way every time, and there aren't any surprises once you know how it all plays out. But that's not really the point of a movie like this. What Anyone But You does offer is that classic rom-com comfort. If you're a fan of the genre, it's the kind of movie you can throw on when you just want something light, funny, and easy to watch. The chemistry between Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell is fun enough to enjoy again, and the film has a carefree energy that makes it a solid background movie when you're in the mood for something breezy. It falls into that category of rom-coms that aren't groundbreaking but still feel enjoyable on a rewatch, especially if you just want a feel-good movie that doesn't demand too much attention. So, is Anyone But You a movie you need to rewatch? Not really. But if you're a rom-com fan, you'll probably find some joy in revisiting it. It's fun, it's light, and sometimes that's all you need. Overall, this movie is a ton of fun, well acted, and takes place in a breathtaking setting. The plot is mostly recycled and forgettable, which holds the overall score back a little. I'm feeling a solid 6 out of 10 on Anyone But You. But hey, that's just my opinion. Have you seen this movie yet? And if so, how would you rate it? Let me know in the comments below, what movie should I review next? Thank you so much for stopping by. See you at the next one.